How's it going, everybody? And welcome to the Talk Sports Show with Alec Pecano. I am testing something out before the show starts. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Patreon, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Patreon? Okay, let's get started here. Here's my NBA upset picks. Here's my NBA upset picks for tonight. My first upset pick for the NBA tonight is the Dallas Mavericks plus 2.5 to upset the Phoenix Suns. I like this upset a lot. Is it going to happen? It's a possibility that it does. I don't know that it does happen, but if it does, we're making out like geniuses. My second upset is the Charlotte. These are two teams that are both really bad. It's the Charlotte Hornets plus 3.5 to upset the Detroit Pistons. Again, it's two horrible teams that don't necessarily deserve to be on here for upset picks, but they are. And then my third upset pick is, and I can't believe this team is actually an underdog. It is the Cleveland Cavaliers plus 6.5 to upset the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks just fired Adrian Griffin, their coach, and hired Doc Rivers. And this is Doc Rivers' first game as coach. So it's a new system. So I have Cleveland pulling the upset here. And my free play of the night in the NBA is the Houston Rockets minus 10 to cover against the Portland Trailblazers. And now here are my college basketball upset picks for tonight. My first one is Central Arkansas plus 6.5 to upset Queens. Now, here's my thing with Queens. We have seen that they're not a very good team. And that has been, how do I say it? That has been programmed. Queens is not really good in basketball. So I like Central Arkansas plus 6.5 here for the upset. My second upset is Auburn plus 3.5 to upset Alabama. This is a rivalry game. No matter what way you want to put it, this is a rivalry game. And I think that Alabama is going to get upset by Auburn tonight in basketball. My third upset is Mississippi State plus 4 to upset Florida. Now, I don't know what to say about Florida. They're topsy-turvy. 1 week, they're like that team that you just can't get rid of. 1 week, you really like them, and you're like, oh, this is an NCAA tournament team. The next week, you're like, okay, maybe not. Maybe it's an NIT. And then you're back on the boat where it's a top 25, a NCAA tournament team. It's a roller coaster. So I like Mississippi State here plus 4 to upset Florida. My next one is Northwestern plus 3 to upset Illinois. Now, Illinois, if you haven't heard, they haven't had Terrence Shannon, who I talked about in the preseason as one of the best players in the Big Ten. Um, they have been they're ranked somehow still, but they've been struggling really bad. And I like Northwestern here. Northwestern's been playing really good, and this is their first of two big games this week. Their other big game is on Saturday night against Ohio State, which, shocker, I probably won't be watching because if y'all haven't heard, I will be streaming the Royal Rumble, my live reactions to the Royal Rumble, Saturday night on YouTube, Twitch, and Patreon. But back to this. So, I like the upset here for Northwestern +3. My next upset, and this one you're going to have to stay up late for because this game does not start till 11 o'clock. It is Washington +3 to upset Colorado. Now, as you saw earlier this week, Colorado is in my top 25 basketball rankings, which I do based on how the teams play every week. But I think they're vulnerable to an upset, and I think the upset could happen tonight against Washington. And Washington's at home. Do I need to add that? I think I do. Washington is at home. I like Washington +3. And if you want to debate about any of these upsets in the NBA or college, do so in the comments down below. I would love to hear y'all's opinion on my upset picks for college basketball in the NBA. And my last upset pick is Kansas State +7.5 to upset Iowa State. This is a Big 12 conference game in basketball. I like the upset a lot here for Kansas State. And my free play of the night, you get two in college basketball. My first one is Tulane -6 to cover against UTSA. If you look at UTSA, they have 7 wins in basketball, but they've lost 12 games. They are not, I'm not going to say bad, but they're average. They're an average college basketball team. And I think Tulane can cover this spread here. And then my last free play of the night for college basketball tonight is Marquette -17.5 to cover again versus DePaul. If you haven't heard, breaking news, shocker, DePaul is one of the worst Division I college basketball teams. And I think Marquette is easily going to cover -17.5 against DePaul. Now, we are going to preview the 2 championship games in the NFL, and I'm going to give you 3 keys to how each team could win. The first one we are previewing is the Lions and the 49ers. So, here are my 3 keys to victory for the Lions. Number 1, and again, you can debate in the comments down below and give me your 3 keys to victory for these 4 teams. So my first key to victory for the Lions, if they want to pull the upset here against San Francisco, limit big plays. And when I say big plays, I mean McCaffrey getting a 20 to 25 yard, 30-yard run. Hold Debo Samuel under 100 total scrimmage yards. If you can do that and limit the number of big plays you give up, I think you're going to have a chance to win. Number 2, hold the 49ers under 35 points. If you hold the 49ers under 35 points, I think you have a really good shot at winning this game, Detroit. And then number 3, key to victory for the Lions is get all your skill position players involved early and often, whether that be a run with Jahmyr Gibbs, a screen pass to Sam Laporta or Amon-Ra St. Brown. And now here's my 3 keys to victory for the Lions. For the 49ers against the Lions. Number 1, limit, like I said about Detroit. Same thing for San Francisco. Limit big plays. Because if you give up big plays, this is going to become a shootout. And we all love shootouts in the playoffs, but it hurts us in the long run because if you're betting money on the game, then you lose money because if you took the under, you lose that money. So limit big plays is number 1. Number 2, limit Amon-Ra St. Brown to less than 140 receiving yards. And I don't think that's possible because San Francisco, their secondary is absolutely atrocious. God awful. It is just, yucky. Yucky, yucky, yucky. And number 3, get your skill position players involved early. If you could do all 3 of those, you're gonna beat Detroit, and I think you'll beat them by at least 10. Here's my score prediction for the Niners and Lions game. I think San Francisco beats Detroit 45-35 in an instant, really good, classic NFC Championship game. Now we get to the AFC Championship game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs in Baltimore. Here's my 3 keys to victory for the Ravens. Number 1, limit Patrick Mahomes to less than 340 yards passing. If you can limit Mahomes to less than 340 passing, you will be in this game and you will have a really good chance of winning. Key number 2, limit Travis Kelce to less than 100 yards receiving. If you can limit Kelce to less than 100 yards receiving, you're going to have a really good shot at winning the game. And number 3, key for the Ravens to win, get Zay Flowers involved in the game early. If you can do that, then you're going to have a really good opportunity to win this game. For the Chiefs to win this game, key number 1, limit Zay Flowers to less than 100 yards receiving. If you notice, the theme here is limit the top guys. Make the backup, make the second and third option guys beat you. 2, limit Lamar Jackson's rushing yards to less than 80 and his passing yards to less than 200. And key number 3, limit turnovers. That's the one issue Kansas City's had and Mahomes has had throughout the season is turnovers, whether it be fumbles, interceptions, penalties. You need to limit all that in this game. If you do that, I think you might have a chance of winning. My final score prediction for the Ravens-Chiefs playoff game is Ravens 35, Chiefs 24. And now, here's my thoughts on the new head coach for the Patriots, Gerard Mayo. I knew this hire was coming for New England because they didn't really interview anybody else. And they gave Mayo a contract extension last year, and they basically told him that he was going to be the new head coach. He was going to be the next head coach for the Patriots once Belichick left, which happened to be in the offseason. And we're still waiting to see where Belichick's going to end up. He might end up in Atlanta. But I like this hire for New England. And now the thing is, they do need a quarterback, and I think they're going to drop a QB in the draft. But what is Jerod Mayo known for? Defense. He's going to take his quarterback that he wants in the draft, but he's also probably going to take defensive players too to help build up that defense and get some young guys in there on the defensive side of the ball. And that's that. Here's my thoughts on Alabama hiring kalen deboer as their new head coach. My issue with, we all knew, I think I was one of the first people to call it last offseason for college football that Nick Saban's was going to retire within the next 2 to 3 years. And look what happened after this season. He retired. But I do like this hire for Alabama. And in a few minutes, you may see them. You may hear me talk about them in my way too early college football top 25. But I like this hire for Alabama because it shows that they didn't want to lose any. They did lose a bunch of guys in the portal, but the one guy that they kept was Jalen Milroe, and I think he's going to thrive in that in the offensive system that Alabama's going to be running with Ryan Grubb as the offensive coordinator. I think Alabama's going to be fine. Honestly, I really think they're going to be okay. And now here's my college football way too early top 25. And again, keyword being way too early, which means I will be doing this again before the season starts. So at number 25, I have Texas Tech. And with every team, you're going to get 2 reasons why I have them in my top 25. Number 25 is Texas Tech. And the reason they're at number 25 in my way too early rankings is because if you didn't see, they finished last season really well. And everybody's picking them to win the Big 12 next year. I'm not on that hype train. You will see what hype train I'm on here in a minute. And the other reason Texas Tech is number 25 in my way too early rankings is because Joey McGuire is coming back as a head coach of Texas Tech. And I really like Joey McGuire. I was wrong on Joey last year. I had him on the hot seat because I didn't think Texas Tech was going to be that good, but they were, and I was wrong. Number 24. This is the hype train I'm on. Colorado, Deion Sanders. The first reason why they're number 24 is the hype. If you noticed, once Colorado started losing games last year, the hype went away. Pause, everybody. The hype for Colorado is back. And it's deafening this time. The hype train for Colorado is deafening. There's a lot of people on the Deion Sanders Colorado hype train now, and I'm one of them. Because the second reason I have them at 24 is if you didn't see what he did in the portal, he made a masterclass in the portal of getting offensive linemen. And what was the one issue Colorado had last year? They couldn't keep Shedeur Sanders up straight. He was always getting sacked. And what did Deion do in the portal? He overhauled that offensive line, and he got a 5-star to commit to Colorado. Number 23, Arizona. Originally, Arizona was in my top 10, but that was before they lost Jed Fish. The reason they're at number 23 now is because they have a new head coach and Brett Brennan, which, to be honest, I don't know much about Brett Brennan because he was out on the West Coast. But I do know San Jose State was good. They were they were above average good. And I like the hire for Arizona because they couldn't really go out and get anybody else. And the other reason I have them at 23 is they're now joining the Big 12. And the Big 12 is going to be loaded. Number 22, surprise team, Georgia Tech. And there are two reasons why they're here is their head coach is returning and they're going into their second full season in the same offensive system and defensive system that they had for half a year in 2022, all year in 2023, and now they're going to go into their second year with it in 2024. Watch out for Georgia Tech. Number 21, Miami of Ohio. I had Miami a little higher. I had the Redhawks a little higher in my original rankings, but then I realized that we don't know if Brett Gabbert's coming back, so they're uncertain at quarterback, uncertainty at QB, but they still do have Chuck Martin as head coach. And Chuck Martin is a really good group of 5 head coach. Number 20, South Carolina. Same head coach and quarterback, both returning. Rattler and Beamer both returning. Beamer's probably on the hot seat. If they don't get up to a good start, don't be surprised if he gets fired. And then they did retool in the portal, which is, you're going to hear me say that a lot with these rankings. There's a lot of teams that retooled in the portal. Number 19, South Florida. Returning head coach and Alex Golesh going into his second year as the head coach, and Byron Brown returning quarterback going into his second full year as the quarterback for USF. And I like how they finished out last season. Nobody was giving them the ounce of respect they deserved for being. Nobody was giving them the time of day for how good they actually were last year. And I'm sorry, but that blows my mind. Number 18, Kansas. Returning quarterback and Jalen Daniels. Yes, he is coming back. And I like Kansas a lot. They might be my pick before the season starts in August to win the Big 12. And new look conference. They are in the Big 12, but they have a lot of new conference members joining. Here is my way too early top 25, 17, rankings 17 through number 9. At number 17, I have Miami, Florida. The reason they're here is because they have a new head coach, Cristobal's still their head coach, but they have a new quarterback, and Cameron Ward, which, go back and watch my podcast when I did my transfer portal on quarterbacks. I think I called Cam Ward going to either Ohio State or Miami, Florida. Number 16 is Oklahoma. The reason they're at 16 and not higher is because Jackson Arnold is their new QB. And I like Jackson Arnold, but he's still a little bit of a mixed bag because he was not the starter last year. It was Dylan Gabriel. And they're also moving, if you haven't heard, moving to the SEC. At number 15, Tennessee. New quarterback, and they used the transfer portal. I like Tennessee a lot going into 2024 with their freshman quarterback Nico Ila Muria, uh, with their quarterback Nico. At number 13, Missouri. They have a new quarterback, but they have Eli Drinkowitz as their head coach still. And I looked at their schedule. I like their schedule a lot. I think they could maybe win the SEC next year. Number 12, Ole Miss. They reloaded in the transfer portal, and they still have Lane Kiffin, who is in consideration for the head coaching job at Alabama, but he chose to stay at Ole Miss, which I like a lot. Number 11, Penn State. They retooled in the portal too, and they still have the same head coach. The only skepticism I have about Penn State, and I want to know what y'all think, debate in the comment section on this video and all my videos going forward. And for those of you on Patreon, the only way you can comment on the videos is if you come on over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications so you don't miss an upload. My only skepticism with Penn State is that could James Franklin get them over the hump with the Big Ten being loaded now with Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA all joining the Big Ten this year? Can they win with all those teams joining? And the other thing is, can they beat Ohio State or Michigan? They didn't beat either of them last year. If they can beat Michigan or Ohio State, they will be in the driver's seat to win the Big Ten. At number 10, Notre Dame. And I know what y'all are going to probably say in the comments after the video. Why is Notre Dame in the top 10? Marcus Freeman, I want y'all to hear me out. Marcus Freeman is a really good head coach. I miss him at Ohio State a lot, but I understand why he left and became the defensive coordinator at Cincinnati for a little bit, and then parlayed that into the head coaching job at Notre Dame. The other reason Notre Dame's not higher than 10 is because they have a new quarterback in Riley Leonard. Riley Leonard is their new QB. And I like Riley Leonard a lot, but I don't know if I trust him in a Notre Dame-led offense. At number 9, and I know I'm going to get backlash for this, Florida State. I originally had them higher than this in my rank when I did my rough draft rankings for way too early. With Florida State, Norvell is coming back, but they do have a new quarterback in DJ Uiagalelei. DJU is a good quarterback, but the one thing I'm going to say is that I don't know how much I trust DJU. Because we've seen him at Clemson. He was good for a little bit. We saw him at Oregon State. He was really good at Oregon State. But he jumped in the portal because Oregon State lost their head coach. At number 8, Oregon. And Oregon's at number 8. And here's their 2 reasons. New quarterback. They get Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma. I like the move a lot for Oklahoma, for Oregon getting Dylan Gabriel because they lost Bo Nix, who's going pro. And they lost Ty Thompson, who went to a group of five school. So I like them getting a quarterback. And then Dan Lanning's back. He was another guy that was in the running for the head coaching job at Bama, but he decided to stay at Oregon. At number 7, and again, you might think I'm crazy for this, Clemson. Hear me out with Clemson. They finished last year really, really strong. Won their bowl game. I think they will be just fine. I think they'll be just fine where they are going into 2024. And the reason they're here is because Dabo's still the coach, and Cade Klubnik. I think Cade Klubnik's a really good quarterback. I know I dogged on Clemson last year a lot and had them on upset alert a couple times, but I was wrong half the time. I put them on upset alert. And I might be doing less of that this year because I do like the recruiting class they also brought in. At number 6, Washington. Yes, I know they should be in the top 5, but hear me out with Washington. They have a new head coach in Jed Fish, who comes over from Arizona, which I like to hire because they had to rush to hire somebody. They didn't want to go in there with an interim head coach. But I like the fact that they did keep Will Rogers entered the portal once. Once deboer left, but then he withdrew his name from the portal the other day, and he's going back to Washington to be the quarterback at Washington for Jed Fish. And I like that. I like that a lot for Washington, keeping Will Rogers. At number 5, Michigan. And this, I'm going to go into elaborate detail as to why Michigan's at 5 and they're not inside the top 4. The reason Michigan's at number 5 is one, if you haven't heard the news, Harbaugh is all but gone. He is not coming back to Michigan. And on it's either Thursday or Friday, I will be tomorrow's show or Friday's show. I will be giving you 3 logical replacements for Harbaugh at Michigan. So stick around for that. But that's reason number 1 that Michigan is number 5 in my way too early top 25. The other reason is because of the fact that they are losing a lot of starters on offense and defense. I know Rod Moore and Donovan Edwards are coming back. Those are the only 2 starters as of right now that are coming back from Michigan. And I think they're going to fall off a little bit. At number 4, Ohio State. New quarterback in the portal, and they got new quarterback, which is Will Howard from Kansas State. And they've also Ryan Day knows his job is probably on the line this year. So he has hit the portal with authority. Whether it be getting Will Howard, Crenshaw Judkins, a couple offensive linemen, or getting Julian Sayin from Alabama which I like that move a whole lot for Ohio State, getting Julian Sayin. But that does mean that you're either going to lose Devin Brown, Lincoln Keenholz, or Aaron Nolan to the portal. Not this year, but probably next year. So that is why Ohio State's at 4. 3 is Alabama. And the reason Alabama's at number 3 is due to having kalen deboer come in at head coach for Nick Saban. Kalen DeBoer had 2 really good seasons at Washington, but we don't know what he's going to be able to do at Bama. He was able to keep Jalen Milroe, but he's losing a lot of guys in the portal. So that's what scares me about Alabama. And if you didn't know, I will be going up to Tuscaloosa in September to see the South Florida Alabama football game, September 7th. So that is week number 2 of the college football season. I will be going up to Alabama to see Alabama, South Florida. At number 2, Texas, the runners-up in the national championship game. And the reason they're here is they kept the same head coach and quarterback. Sark was another guy that was in the running for the head coaching job at Bama. But again, like the others I've talked about, he decided to stay where he was at Texas, and he parlayed that into getting a bigger deal from Texas and getting a raise, a pay raise to stay at Texas. The other thing is that Texas is joining the SEC, and I think that's going to cause a lot of people to think, oh, they're going to fall off. They're not going to be good. But I think Texas will be fine. At number 1, Georgia. And Georgia's at number 1. They're the best team in college football. I know they lost to Bama last year, but they're still the best team in college football until further notice. And the other reason is Carson Beck is coming back as QB next year for Georgia. And I like that for Georgia a lot. And ladies and my friends, if you didn't know, I do have a Patreon. I'm also this video is on Twitch and YouTube, and it's also on Patreon. So if you want to see what I post on Patreon, it is free to join. The Patreon is free to join, or if you want to pay, it's only $2 a month for a paid membership to the Patreon. And as well as that, here on YouTube, I offer memberships. And the memberships, you get neat perks with the memberships. Like you get a meet and greet with me, which I will be releasing when the first meet and greet with me will be the first meet and greet will probably be either September or October. Probably September. Maybe when I'm in Tuscaloosa for the Bama South Florida game. So, like I said, you get neat perks with the membership. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the Talk Sports Show host, Alec Pecado, signing off. I will see y'all tomorrow afternoon at 12 o'clock. Have a wonderful rest of your day.